Hello, and welcome back to the Misty Morrison podcast. I'm your host, the wonderful Misty Morrison, and this is episode 12 of Was I in the Wrong on the Misty Morrison podcast. You may notice I'm in a different setting today. I am traveling for work, so we are recording, trying to batch episodes from the hotel, very nice hotel room. So a little bit different setup, audio might sound different. I have every light in this room on, but we are doing what we can. So let's get into the stories. I have some new ones saved. Let's see. Story number 1 is coming to us from r/AITA_WIBTA_public. Would I be the asshole for breaking a promise to my aunt after her death? In my family and friends circle, I'm known as a place where secrets go to die. People confide in me because I'm a vault. It started decades ago when I assured my much younger siblings that they could come to me if they had a life event that happened that they weren't comfortable going to our strict parents with. Now that they have children, I've made the same promise to those kids. People tell me things because they know I won't repeat it or throw it in their faces. I have an aunt who I'm very close to, who's a textbook narcissist. I love her and like her, but I'm always cognizant of her limitations. She's incapable of empathy. When family drama happens, she usually misbehaves outrageously, and when people blame her, she disappears, then comes back with a version of the story that makes her the victim. She can never see herself portrayed as the bad guy. She's at odds with her only surviving brother, for reasons that are clear to her and no one else. Many of our family members have little to do with her, but she does maintain relationships with a few of them. Last week, she made me promise that when she dies, I cannot tell anyone for 2 weeks, or until she's cremated and buried. I told her I would comply with her wishes, and she was adamant about it. She 100% means it. She threatened to haunt me if I break this promise. Well, I'm not afraid of being haunted, but it seems like a post-mortem cruelty. My instinct is to keep this promise, but I can't imagine how her brother will feel if the news of his only surviving sister's death is kept from him. I have no doubt that he's the primary person she has in mind with this new policy from beyond the grave. My aunt and uncle are in their 80s, so I figure it's something I'm going to have to deal with at some point in my life. This one, oh gosh, this one is only an hour old. I think I would keep it. I'm gonna label this situation a mess just because, her whole life and persona seems to be quite messy. But, I mean, you made a promise. You have kept the promise that you made to everyone else, and I don't feel like this should be any different. Yes, it's weird. Yes, it is hurtful to the people in her life who care about her, but you said you would do it. And I do feel like it is wrong to break a promise you made to someone after they're gone just because, well, they're gone, so it doesn't matter now. I don't agree with that. Let's see. Yeah, I would keep the promise. I think you should. It's only 2 weeks, and if it is her wish that, maybe she doesn't want a funeral, maybe she doesn't want an obituary, whatever the reason is, you agreed to it, so stick with it. Not right, not wrong, just a mess. Story number 2 is coming to us from r/would I be the a-hole? Would I be the asshole if I sprayed my dad with a water bottle to teach him to stay out of the kitchen? I, 30 female, live with my dad, 62 male, and his sister, 62 female. 5 days ago, my dad tested positive for COVID. For 2 days, he wore a mask around the house and self-isolated. On day 3, I was in the kitchen with my food on the stove, water bottle, and my dog on the counter, giving him his meds and feeding him. He is a 19-year-old super senior, so needs special care, and this is our routine. Suddenly, my dad appears next to me to get into the fridge, and I, of course, tell him to leave and wait until I'm finished. We have a small argument about how his mask is not 100%, and so he needs to wait for me to be finished, especially because I'm stuck at the counter with wet dog food all over my hands and with my dog on the counter. The next day, I came home from work and he was in the kitchen without his mask. My hands were full and I was on the phone on speaker, so I had to just wait at the door until he left the kitchen. After putting my things away, I realized I would have to have a serious talk with him. But he's the type of person that needs you to be rather gentle with first, else good luck even getting him to hear you out. So I put on a mask myself, sanitized, and then brought a pack of masks with me to ask if perhaps he was just out of masks and needed some as a way to gently start the topic. I ask how he's feeling first, and he says still pretty bad. I ask if he needs masks, and he replies that he doesn't need them now because he isn't contagious. Mind you, it's only been 3 days after getting a positive test result. He says that work cleared him to come back because he no longer has any symptoms, so he's no longer contagious. I've gotten much better at being assertive with him when it's this serious. So I immediately put my foot down and corrected him that that is definitely not correct, and that he's still going to take the necessary precautions for at least 2 weeks from the day he lost symptoms, especially because his sister has lung disease and in poorer health compared to the both of us. I told him that these were very minor inconveniences that we should be willing to take on to avoid what would be catastrophic to his sister. I then made sure to let his sister know that regardless of what he tells her, he is definitely still contagious and she should sanitize, distance from him, and treat him as such until I give her the all clear, and she agreed. I took over helping her around town for any errands or shopping she needs to do in the meantime. Since then, I have not caught him wearing a mask once when in the kitchen, and would keep reminding him, and then I would sanitize the kitchen. But today was the last straw for me. I walked into the hallway to see him and his sister in the kitchen together as if nothing was out of the ordinary, and I lost it. I scolded him for coming in there when she had already been in the kitchen, but I don't think he's going to actually listen to me. So I want a plan for how to discourage him from doing this again in the future. So, would I be the asshole if the next time I catch him ignoring the rules, I sprayed him relentlessly with the water bottle until he leaves? Update. Oh, the update is long. Okay. So before we read the update, my initial reaction to the whole post, yes, you would be the asshole. It's like you said, you live with your dad and his sister, so that makes it sound like it's your dad and his sister's house, not yours. If that's the case, you don't make the rules. And as long as it's not your house, he can do what he wants, regardless of whether it is right or wrong, regardless of whether it is safe or not. It is his house and he gets to do what he wants to do. You already know that he's going to be stubborn about it. He's not going to listen to you. I think you're taking it too far. Regardless of what dangers exist, like you told the sister can respond to that however she wants to. You've told him, and if he's choosing to disregard, that's his choice. He's an adult living in his own home. You can't make him do anything he doesn't want to do. So, yes, if you decide to drench your dad with a spray bottle like he's a bad cat, yes, you'd be the asshole. You're wrong. Let's read the update and see if it could change my mind. Update. Firstly, I wanted to thank everyone for their comments so far, particularly comments affirming that the recent quote-unquote guidelines for COVID do not reflect how the virus actually operates and spreads. So be careful, everyone, and recommending N95 masks for us to use to maximize our protection in the meantime. Thank you to those who also sought to give thoughtful feedback on how to better respond and word choices I could incorporate in discussions with him. My impulse is spray bottle since it could be assertiveness from a distance, but comments have also made me reconsider how it also might escalate the situation, a feeling I had that prompted this post to begin with. However, other comments made me realize that I also needed to be more clear about some small details in my original post. 1. Wording in my post was accidentally misleading/incomplete, so apologies. The day my dad tested positive, he called to tell us that he had COVID, so we should isolate, etc. So rules were established and accepted by him originally. Dad's sister understood and agreed. However, days later, sudden backtracking by Dad inspired our disagreements and arguments. But Dad's sister was in the house to overhear the disagreements from both sides between me and Dad, and she ultimately did agree that since she could still be at a higher risk if infected, she wanted to just continue being safe, hence her agreeing for me to take her around town rather than Dad. I can see how my verbiage of regardless of what he tells her, he's definitely still contagious and she should sanitize, distance from him, and treat him as such until I give her the all clear and she agreed, was not clear enough and seemed authoritarian on my end. This was not me ordering her what to do. The conversation evolved a back and forth of me telling her that, since Dad is vocally in disagreement of her ultimate preference to play it safe, he is unreliable, so she should not trust him if he says he's not contagious moving forward. So the vulnerable adult person did make a choice about their health, and the discussion involved me making plans with her on the best way for us to do this to compensate for Dad's negligence and apathy around it. 2. I can see how I walked into the hallway to see him and his sister in the kitchen together as if nothing was out of the ordinary and I lost it. Seemed as though I was saying both of them were together without caring, but I meant he was in there next to her, together, as if nothing were out of the ordinary, meaning he did not react as if he were doing anything wrong. When I appeared, he looked at me and I put my hand up like, "Excuse me?" And sister was walking away from him and said, "I was already in here," stating that she was already in there, so he had just come in without any warning, similar to when he unknowingly snuck in behind me earlier in my post. That is why I lost it. Dad's sister had left the kitchen by the time the scolding happened. I had posted this right afterwards, and then when Dad left the kitchen, I checked in on Dad's sister and she thanked me for my concern, and I just clarified that she should continue sanitizing her hands and masking when in the kitchen to compensate since he isn't proving to be trustworthy to sanitize his hands himself and isn't masking, hence isn't listening to me, as in not at all respecting the wishes of his sister. I then did send a text telling him that whether he agrees or not, his sister is the one at risk here, and it is her that he is disrespecting and endangering, and that runs counter to caring about someone. I also asked that he at least call, text, or take some measure to ask her to leave the kitchen moving forward. I requested he do the same for me since I also do prefer not to get sick, since I need to be available to help Dad's sister while in the 2-week window. Their mother was very my house, my money, my rules, and they came from childhood abuse and poverty too. Combined with sister being disabled, unemployed, and wholly reliant on dad and me, she does have a lot of anxiety and trauma that, paired with my dad's stubbornness and lack of communication skills, makes her hesitant to speak up against him when he's being unreasonable. However, me and her have had lengthy communication about this exact worry, as well as other feelings, fears, and everything else while in our car rides together or sitting out on the porch. We have a very close relationship now, where she tells me how she feels about things that she would otherwise be afraid to say to dad. So I have taken on an advocacy type of role for her in ways that would not put her distinctly in the crossfires of any conflict that might arise from doing so. This is that type of situation. Trauma knows trauma. Secondly, I should clarify the living situation and address some comments made through speculation and generalization. This is winded, but I feel like this background matters. He is not my biological dad, but my chosen dad since he dated my mom when I was 12 to 17. My mom left the picture at age 16 to 17, so I stayed with him in his 2-bedroom rented home where he also lived with his brother and brother's wife. We come from extreme poverty, so I began working to help with bills as soon as I graduated high school. The plan was splitting bills between 4 of us, but brother and brother's wife would often not have money for bills, so I helped dad compensate when needed. 3 years ago, a storm made the rented home officially unlivable, but was unlivable already, but the rent alone was capped at $400 a month by negligent landlord. The renting market far exceeded the $400 we were used to, averaged $1,600 without utilities. And I spoke with people I knew who recommended considering buying a home instead, and my dad was thrilled that it could be an option. I connected him with a realtor, and I spent 2 weeks visiting around 16 homes and sent photos. When I found some that were promising, we visited them together once more. The one home we did find that was even close to possible was not affordable on just his salary, but we could do it if I have the bills. So we went for it. It is in his name because that made sense for him to finally own a home at his age, and I'm not bothered by it being in his name. I am proud I could help make that possible for him because he deserved to own a home finally. Me and Dad split everything financial, and I willingly take on a lot of the invisible work: cleaning, errands, helping with online things, understanding tech, helping with yard work, etc., that he is slowly having trouble with his age. He has a full time, but also a lot of health conditions. He has a full time job, but also a lot of health conditions. If we could afford for him to retire, I wish he would, but it's still relatively hard out here, and he still is determined to keep working. His sister, however, only needs to pay for her food with her disability, and that is fine with us, but does not mean she deserves to be ignored just because Dad's name is on the mortgage payments or because I buy her household items and clean up for her. Our economic background taught us to care for and support everyone we love, and that we need to have hard conversations, especially if we disagree on what care and support looks like. And that it is never okay to use economic leverage to make house rules or to govern relationships. That is so toxic, harmful, and abusive. And my heart breaks for commenters who have learned to navigate their family dynamics using economic authority as a baseline when conflict arises involving those you love. I am here for insight I might be missing on the topic at hand, and those comments are allowed to be in the responses, but I am also welcome to disagree with them. Lastly, on a lighter note, I do understand where the comments expressing icks around the dog on the counter were coming from, with how vague I was in my original post. Haha, many were worded with hilarious ways and gave me a big laugh, so no hard feelings on my end. But I am willing to include a lot of additional context below for anyone who cares enough, but that is all I will do regarding Icky Dog moving forward, since the post is not about him. And just for fun, I'll read you the update on the Icky Dog context. He has a washable plastic mat with traction that I lay on the counter first to keep him from slipping, and that I wash in the sink after each routine because foodborne illness, no thank you. And I do keep Lysol spray and disposable wipes there for wiping the counter down afterwards. I used to do his routine on the floor, but it was much more difficult for a number of reasons. One, he has 9 medications, 2 new ones recently, yay, that he needs every 12 hours or he quite literally will die: congestive heart disease and now stage 2 kidney disease. Previously, he would need constant resetting into position for me to put the pills up to his mouth for opportunity to eat them on his own. His eyesight is poor, and I would have to pill him half the time. But the worst part was that the pills would sometimes fall out of his mouth, both purposely and accidentally at times, and into his blankets without me noticing. This is extremely dangerous for him. And the couple of times it happened resulted in his blood pressure suddenly dropping and him collapsing. Or he would start choking depending on how long it had been, until I noticed the missed dose on the ground and which medication it was. The counter is optimal for us behaviorally for him and to reduce the chances of a missed dose to zero. Since using the counter, he understands there is nowhere to escape to, so he isn't as resistant, and the routine goes faster and smoother, which is less stress on both of us. Most importantly, I now can definitely and immediately clock if he pushes a pill out of his mouth, since lighting is better and it falls onto the plastic mat. Only happens once every few days, but I can immediately slip it right back in his tiny mouth. 2, his eyesight is getting rather poor, and his snout is so short that he began having trouble picking up his food from the bowl on his own when we made a dietary switch for his health. He would get food stuck up his nose while trying, so I opted to just ease his mealtime trouble by feeding him myself with plastic forks. Rather than taking 20 minutes and having a messy face, now it takes about 5 minutes, is less messy, and we are both much happier. 3, I also close it off with his dental routine while he is up there. His post-meal routine is easier and more sanitary when done at the counter. Cleaning up any messes is easy, since they fall on the plastic mat that I can just quickly wash in the sink with soap and water at the end of the entire routine. And then I wipe the counter with Lysol spray because it is then my turn to make my own breakfast. All his medicine and other care items are all together at the counter and organized for his bi-daily routine. So this counter method just works for us. Oh, props to OP for sharing so many details. I personally really do appreciate the icky dog context because the moment I heard dog on the counter, I was very much grossed out. So I'm glad to hear that he's not actually on the counter, he's on a mat, and everything gets sanitized after. And I probably still would have been against it, except for that he's a super senior, he's 19. I feel like most dogs don't even live that long, so All right, we'll live and let live. Going back to the update, the most important part of the update for me was when she said, while she helped her dad get the house, it is in his name, and they split the finances. And because of that, I still say it is his house and he gets to do whatever he wants to do, regardless of who it affects and how. Like if he chooses to disregard his sister's safety, that's his choice. Then she has to be more careful about sanitizing. She has to wear a mask or avoid him. That's her choice. But if you and your dad are splitting the finances, that house is equally yours, technically more so his because it's in his name. But let's just go with the finances and say you guys split them evenly. The house is evenly yours. You still can't tell him what to do. The kitchen is a shared space. Like you can tell him, stay out of my bedroom. If you have your own bathroom, you can say, stay out of my bathroom. But the kitchen is a shared space. He is an adult. He gets to make his own decisions the same way you're trying to make sure that your aunt gets to make her own decisions. So I still disagree with you. I appreciate all the information and context and background, but I still think you are the asshole for trying to control your dad. OP, you are wrong. Wow, that was a lot. And I can't tell. I think it says I've been recording for 20 minutes. That one was long. Story number 3 is coming to us from r/AITAH. AITAH for not treating my friend to dinner after she helped me with an errand. My friend and I hang out pretty often, and we have a pretty casual give and take when it comes to helping each other out. A few days ago, I needed a ride to pick up some furniture I bought online. It was a bit of a hassle since the place was about 45 minutes away, but my friend offered to help me out with her truck. She didn't ask for gas money or anything, so I really appreciated it. Sirens. After we picked up the furniture, I suggested we grab something to eat, and she seemed excited about the idea. But when the bill came, she was a little surprised that I didn't offer to cover her meal. I paid for my half and she paid for hers. She didn't say anything at the time, but later on she texted me saying she felt like I should have treated her as a thank you for helping me out with the drive. Here's where it gets a little awkward. I recently had a bit of luck at the casino and won a couple $100. She knows about it because I mentioned it casually in conversation earlier that day. Now she's implying that since I had some extra cash, I should have used it to pay for our meal as a nice gesture. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but now I'm wondering if I was being stingy or considerate. AITAH for not treating her to dinner after she helped me, even though I recently came into a little extra money. OP, I do think you are wrong in this situation. And the money you won at the casino actually has nothing to do with it. That's neither here nor there for me. What gets me is 2 things. For one, she drives a truck and it was 45 minutes away, which means it was over an hour and a half round trip. So that was a lot of gas out of her truck. She didn't ask you for anything. She just helped you out of the goodness of her heart because she's your friend. And that's fair. I know that's what you're used to. But even if she didn't ask for anything, you should have offered something. And if you offered gas money and she wouldn't take it, then when you suggested that you guys go grab something to eat, it makes sense where she would have assumed that since you suggested getting food, you were buying as a treat because she helped you. That fully makes sense to me. I'm with her on that. And whether or not she made that assumption, I definitely think it should have been your treat. As kind of like a thank you for the time that she spent and the money that she spent in gas to go help you when she didn't have to. That just 100% sounds fair to me. So I do think you're wrong, and you should take your friend to lunch. Story number 4 is coming to us from r/Am I overreacting? Am I overreacting? My dad asking me if I'm wearing a bra. Every time he asks, it makes me upset inside. I'm almost 30 years old. My boyfriend told me not to worry about it. But honestly, it makes me upset and feel grossed out when he asks me. If he asks me, then he has to be staring at my chest. Am I overreacting? Okay. And like when I saw this title, I was like, this can go one of two ways. Like, if it's like if it's like a young kid, like preteen, I could see where like if like wearing a bra was a new thing, like if you're the only parent, you would be asking like, "Hey, did you remember to, wear this?" I could see that, but at 30 years old, it is not his business anymore. Cuz I mean like small-chested ladies, you don't have to wear a bra. You're lucky. Like you can just get away with that perfectly comfy. Um yeah. I don't think I mean, I don't I can't really say if you're overreacting or not because you didn't say how you reacted. But I agree with you. I think it's weird. I do think it's weird that your boyfriend said not to worry about it. But yeah, at 30 years old, it's not your dad's business. Your dad shouldn't be worrying about it. Yeah, that's weird. So you are right. That is a weird situation, and I hope you're able to nip that in the bud. All right. Because story number 2 was so long, we only have 4 stories. 4 was I in the wrong today. If you are listening on podcast, please leave a 5-star review and share the episode if you like the content. If you are watching on YouTube, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Um, like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for more. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next time for another episode of the Misty Morrison Podcast. Bye.